Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located. Thank you all so much for joining Amtrak Vacations as we feature our newest rail experiences. So for those of you that have joined myself on our previous presentations, first and foremost, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Jim Marini. I will be your host today. And I say that I will be your host because, as I mentioned just a moment ago, we're so excited to have our Director of Product who's going to tell you more about these exciting rail experiences. So for those of you real rail enthusiasts, rail buffs, this is the presentation for you. And as always, we will be giving away a $100 Amtrak Vacations gift card at the end of today's presentation. So stay tuned to see if you are the lucky winner. I also want to encourage each and every one of you, if you have a pen and paper, please feel free to write down our 1-800 number to book any of these exciting trips. And that number is 1-800-AMTRAK-2, otherwise 1-800-268-7252, or contact your local travel agent who can help you with all of these reservations, okay? With that in mind, everybody, we appreciate your time. So as always, I'd like to make my presentation short and sweet. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. For those of you that are joining me again, thank you for your support. So as always, I like to start out with showing a map of really where Amtrak travels to throughout the United States. And as you can see in the top left-hand corner in small letters, there's actually over 500 Amtrak stations throughout the United States. Some interesting trivia for everybody. Amtrak actually travels to 46 out of the 48 continuous states in the United States, with the exception of South Dakota and Wyoming. So all those red lines is where any of you can start and or end your trip and where Amtrak travels through. Also, last year alone, over 31 million people traveled on Amtrak, over 31 million people. And as always, we have a huge turnout today, over 1,000 people in attendance throughout our presentations today. So thank you again for your support. As I mentioned, there are over 500 Amtrak stations to start and or end your trip. However, I did want to mention, interestingly enough, a little bit over 50% of our travelers will actually fly to and or from the starting or ending point on your trip. So keep that in mind, everybody. You have the option, if you choose, to fly to the starting city and fly home from the ending city, or fly one way and train another way. Okay, so again, you get to decide. Any of our agents here can help you, or certainly your local travel agent. So please keep that in mind. So before I introduce our featured guest speaker today, let me start out by mentioning to everybody why Amtrak Vacations. You know, we took a survey a few years ago, and we asked all of our travelers why they traveled with Amtrak Vacations. And certainly for some of you here today, it may be one of your top reasons, and it is a bucket list experience. So hopefully many of you, that's the same reason you're also interested in hearing more about these exciting rail experiences, to travel by rail all throughout the United States. Also, room to roam. We want you to get up, walk around, stretch your legs, enjoy yourself. That's what we're here for. Also, know that when you book on any of these packages with Amtrak Vacations through your local travel agent, everything is electronic. So e-ticketing, e-documents, we try to make it nice and easy. City-to-city service. I always use the example of New York City. For those of you that have traveled in and out of Penn Station in New York, there really is not a better way to get in and out of New York City than traveling by Amtrak into Penn Station. Also, places like Glacier National Park, as well as some of the other great cities that we're going to talk about today. Satisfy your hunger. On any of our overnight journeys, everyone, anytime any of you upgrade to either a roomette or a bedroom, which would be part of our sleeper accommodations, all of your meals are included on that particular portion of your journey. Also, there is a private chef on board during the overnight experience on the train. And our featured guest speaker will tell you more about that. And also know that flexibility, we have multiple departures throughout the United States, so know that you have lots of options. So with that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce our Director of Product, Andy Channell, who's going to tell you more about not only the benefits of the rail experience in the train, the scenery along the way, but also these packages and these exciting rail vacations that we have now designed for each and every one of you. So without further ado, everybody, let me pass it over to Andy.
Thank you, Jim, for that warm introduction, and thank all of you today for giving me the opportunity to kind of sit in this presentation and highlight what really is our fastest growing new Amtrak Vacations rail product, and that is our line of rail experiences. My role as Director of Product, of course, is to craft a lot of these wonderful vacations that we're able to offer to each and every one of you, and I'm very excited about the new line of rail experiences because this is something clients have really been asking for a long time. Anybody who's been in a previous presentation or has traveled with us in the past will be very familiar with, for example, our Independent Journeys program, where we link a number of wonderful destinations and combine those with the enjoyable experience of traveling by rail. But the rail experience really kind of takes that to the next level. And as Jim mentioned, for the rail buffs, this is really the product you want to experience. The rail experience is the type of product that focuses on the journey itself and understands that the rail journey is the vacation, with some great stop-offs along the way, but with a real focus on the wonderful experience of traveling by rail. These take in a number of major cross-country routes, so with those of you trying to accomplish bucket list experiences and travel through portions of the country you haven't had the chance to explore in the past, this may be the product for you. So what I'd like to do is start off with a little bit of an explanation of how you can travel on board an Amtrak train, what that experience is like a little bit, and then we'll go right into the details of these itineraries. So for your understanding, all of our rail experience packages are built initially with coach-level accommodations. Now, the nice thing is that for those of you looking for a sleeper accommodation, there are some very affordably priced upgrades available, but this is really the most common way people travel on board an Amtrak train. And I got to tell you, folks, coach is a very comfortable, enjoyable way to travel, even for overnight experiences. When you think of a coach seat on a train, you shouldn't be thinking of like a coach seating or an economy class on an airplane. We're talking about something more akin to a first-class airline travel. Comfortable seating that kicks way back for sleeping, a footrest that comes up, tons of leg room. It's just a really, really comfortable way to travel. And the nice thing about traveling in coach is, unlike with airline travel, you're not confined to your seat. If you want to get up and go down to the observation car and enjoy some wonderful views from the glass dome area and take in the scenery and really get a more amazing view, feel free to do that. If you want to stroll on down the cafe car because you're feeling a little peckish or you want a little drink or a snack, you can do that anytime you'd like to. It's a very, very comfortable way to travel, and of course, you have some wonderful seating and views even from the coach seating area. You can sit right there and take in some outstanding scenery along your journey. So that's really the first level where people start with travel on rail. Now, we also mentioned the sleeper car or sleeper accommodations, and really there are two primary ways to travel when you're in a sleeping accommodation on a train. The first of those is the roomette. It's probably the most common way people travel. It's a sleeping compartment for up to 2 people, maybe 1 or 2. You have some great seating and all those wonderful benefits of extra space and room like you would see in coach. But at night, the compartment converts to a sleeping area with an upper and lower bed that are very comfortable. You can draw back the windows if you want to take in the nighttime scenery as you're traveling, or close them up for a nice, comfortable sleeping and cozy sleeping area on board the train. One of the nice things about traveling in the sleeper accommodation in a roomette is that you also have access to the dining car with your meals already included. So unlike coach passengers where you have access to dining but have to pay, all meals included on board the train and take place on the train while you're in the sleeper accommodation are already paid for as part of your roomette accommodation. Then, of course, the other level of sleeping accommodation is the bedroom, or the deluxe bedroom as it's sometimes called. Very similar to the roomette in terms of layout and space on board the train. One of the big advantages to a bedroom or a deluxe bedroom on the train is that it actually means that you have a private shower and bathroom facility in your sleeping apartment rather than the private but shared one for roomette passengers that are in the train car itself. So roomette passengers have access to several bathrooms and showers in their train car. Bedroom passengers already have that all within their compartment. And of course, all meals included. And again, really comfortable private space, great viewing window for taking in the scenery, and of course converts to a very comfortable sleeping compartment during the evening times. And as I mentioned, those two upgrades, roomette and bedroom, are very affordably priced, but of course, getting in early definitely helps with that because as you probably know, traveling by rail can be a lot like traveling by air. Prices are at their best when they're at their earliest. One of the great things, too, about traveling by train is it's such a hassle-free environment. Anybody who's flown recently will know it can be pretty stressful to go to the airport, right? You get there, you have to get there several hours in advance, and crazy security checks, and then when you get on the plane, you're kind of confined to your seat unless you're getting up for a brief moment for the entirety of the journey. That's not an Amtrak experience at all. You have this very comfortable space you're able to enjoy Boarding is easy. In fact, they have the red caps at most of the major stations there to take your bags to the train to and from for you. They really make it easy, and that's one of the things I think people really appreciate and enjoy on an Amtrak vacation. Dining, of course, on a train, particularly on the long-distance trains, can be a wonderful experience. If you've had airplane food in the past, you can forget all about that because train dining is such a different experience. In fact, I've often likened the dining car to a little rolling restaurant. You go down, you can make a reservation, you have linen, your meals are ordered from a real menu. You can order everything from sandwiches and some of the best salads I've ever had, all the way up to a steak dinner. For breakfast, have an omelet, have some waffles. I mean, the selection and the quality are amazing. And the staff, of course, is wonderful. Like I said, it's a real dining experience, not just a quick prepackaged microwave dinner like you'd find on an airline service. And of course, the comfort of traveling on the train. I kind of had mentioned before the experience of going down to the observation car. If you want a little privacy, you want to stay in your room, you have no shortage of great views. But for somebody who really wants to take in some of the breathtaking scenery that's possible on a long-distance Amtrak trip, the observation car is a great way to do that. It's open to anybody. While there's space, people will come down, bring a book, kick their feet up, sit back, and just take in some breathtaking views as they continue on their journey to the next destination. And with rail experiences in particular, that can be a really popular one because rail experiences, with their focus on the train travel, the train experience, and the sightseeing from the train, with those packages, it's really all about taking in some of the most amazing landscapes you're ever going to find, places you could never reach by car or even airplane. You really have to hike in long distance, if anything, to find some of these spots, even if you could. So rail experiences are all about taking in all these wonderful parts of the United States from the train and getting you there in a really comfortable way to do it. So we talked a little bit about what the rail experience is. What I'd like to take a little bit of time to do is kind of go through some of the most popular itineraries that we have. And actually, I'll take you through all 5 rail experiences we're currently operating and really highlight why it's such an amazing trip to take. Now, one point to start with, we base all of the rail experience trips out of Chicago, partly because it's the most common point of departure. But as Jim said, really, it's up to you where you want to begin your trip and how it starts. Some people may fly to and from Chicago, but I'm happy to be able to say that anybody who wants to do rail experience all the way from wherever your point of departure, your hometown is, well, really, we can customize your trip to reflect that. If you want to start in Michigan, great, no problem. If you want to come out of New York and begin one of these rail experiences, we can do that too. And if you prefer to just start in Chicago and fly in, absolutely no problem. We can certainly help with that. So without further ado, I'm going to talk to you first about what has actually become the most popular of these 5 new packages. Now, mind you, these have only been on the market for a couple months now. And in that short period of time, they've risen to the top of the most popular journeys that we're able to offer through Amtrak Vacations. And the most popular of these 5 so far is the one I'm going to start with right now. And that is the Northern Rail Experience. Northern Rail Experience takes in the northwestern, the western, and central parts of the western United States, traveling on 3 of the most popular train lines that you could do for long-distance sightseeing. That's the Empire Builder across the north, the Coast Starlight down through the Pacific Northwest to San Francisco, and then the California Zephyr, which cuts right across the heartland of the United States and back to your starting point in Chicago. So for clients taking this trip, we can certainly include a night in Chicago in a hotel or 2 beforehand, but it does not automatically come with that. A lot of people want to come right through and start their sightseeing journey right away. And that's really how this trip begins. So you board your train in Chicago, get checked into your room, or find your coach seats, make yourself comfortable. There's some pretty generous luggage allotments in terms of what people are able to carry on and check in. 2 check bags, 2 carry-on bags, and a personal item allowed for each passenger on these long-distance routes, which is great because you're going out for a little bit of time. If you want to pack in souvenirs, bring some things along with you, extra clothes, whatever. They're very generous traveling on Amtrak with your luggage allowance. So you depart Chicago, and you head northwest first, and really the scenic journey begins right away. As you're cutting across the farm country of Iowa and those waving corn and oat fields and wheat fields, it's a beautiful section of country, and on up into the lakes region as you pass through Minnesota and Wisconsin. You cross the northern plains through the Dakotas. Now, one piece of advice I give everybody taking a trip like this, make sure your camera is not in your check bags because you're going to want it handy to capture some of these views. I mean, we're talking absolutely breathtaking scenery, wildlife, if you're fortunate. And as you continue west through Montana, you start entering those rolling foothills and then head right up into the Rocky Mountains. The Northern Rockies is one of the most beautiful experiences. You're going to be coming in all day long, the mountains ever climbing ahead of you. During the evening time with the moon and the stars out, you'll be able to take in those breathtaking snow-capped peaks of the Cascades as you pass through northern Idaho and Washington. Again, keep your camera handy. Wildlife is abundant in these areas. Chances are you're going to see something really interesting. And that beautiful sightseeing journey will end in Seattle. You'll stop there for one evening. Great chance. You kind of have to stop to change trains, so it's an opportunity to get out, stop, really reminisce on that wonderful train experience you just had, and take in some of the sights of Seattle. We do include a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour, so you have an easy way to get around and have a wonderful tour of the city, which take in most of the major attractions, places like Pike's Market and the waterfront, and give you the chance to hop out and explore a little bit while you're there. Now, of course, the rail experience is all about the train journey. So after spending that one night in Seattle, you hop back on board the train the next day to begin the journey south on the ever-popular Coast Starlight. I love this part of the trip because this northern section of the Coast Starlight passes through some of the beautiful pine forests and the rolling hills and mountains of the Pacific Northwest on down into Northern California with a stop for 2 nights in San Francisco and a chance to explore a little bit there as well. San Francisco is such a popular attraction that consistently people love to spend a little extra time there, so it is the longest stop in this particular itinerary. Head on down to Pier 39, grab some seafood, do a little sightseeing, check out the attractions, and then after your brief stay there, resume your journey east across and back to Chicago. Now, that journey, that last piece is on the California Zephyr. This is the single most popular sightseeing train journey that Amtrak offers. That 2-night trip across from San Francisco to Chicago takes in just about every type of popular and beautiful scenery you might want to experience on a train journey, or on any trip for that matter. Whether it's passing through the Sierra Nevada mountains as you head east, whether it's crossing the deserts of Nevada, or the salt flats of Utah, or the beautiful farm country of the Central Plains as you head back into Chicago, there is no shortage of opportunities to take in some of the most majestic, breathtaking, and picturesque scenery this country has to offer. Wonderful trip. Right now, the 3rd most popular journey we offer, second only to our trip to Glacier and Grand Canyon. As I mentioned, these are the fastest growing new segment of our Amtrak Vacations business. And this one is the most popular at the top of the list. I mentioned scenery. It's easy to take an image like this and realize what's possible with a rail experience through Amtrak Vacations. As I said, journeys taking place in regions no one else would ever get you to. Looking out the window of a plane, well, we've all seen clouds. They pretty much look the same from wherever you are. And some of these places are not even close to reachable by car. Train is the only way to take in some of the breathtaking landscapes we have to offer. Northern Rail experience, folks, very popular, the most popular of these new rail experiences right now. Now, I mentioned you do your hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour while you're in Seattle. While you're in San Francisco, you do some hop-on, hop-off sightseeing there with that tour as well, which, again, is a great tour of the city where you get a lot of background and history on the points of interest, the major landmarks, with the flexibility to get out and explore. While you're in San Francisco, we also get you out to Muir Woods and Sausalito. So we're all about taking in the natural beauty while you're there. And Muir Woods is no limit to that. You're going to go out there and experience the giant redwoods, and then a short stop in the beautiful and quaint seaside town of Sausalito. While you're there, you do have a bay cruise as well. Nothing like taking in San Francisco from the water, take some pictures of Alcatraz and the beautiful waterfront before heading back on out east. Beautiful, isn't it, folks? While you're in Seattle, you'll get a chance to take in Chihuly Garden and Glass if you have the time. The Chihuly Garden and Glass exhibit is actually one of the most popular Seattle attractions. It's an entire art exhibit made out of glass sculptures made to represent a garden scene. It's really, really beautiful. As I said, it's sometimes hard to put into words how impressive the scenery and the experiences you're going to have are on an Amtrak vacation. An image like this really captures what's possible, again, traveling with Amtrak Vacations on a rail experience. Which brings me to our next itinerary, the Pacific Rail Experience. Similar to the Northern, but with a more southern bent to the journey. And as I mentioned, same common point of departure, Chicago, although customized trips from any point on the Amtrak system are possible. You begin with a 2-night journey southwest on the Southwest Chief, which is going to travel across the rolling hills of Missouri before breaking into the Great Plains. I love the fact that this passes through New Mexico and Arizona. The opportunity to take in some of the most impressive scenes of desert landscapes and sightseeing are possible on this trip. You know, having that wonderful breakfast we talked about is something different when you're actually watching the sun come up over the desert. It's quite an amazing experience. So you pass southwest and then on into Southern California for a 1-night stop in Los Angeles. We include a tour there so you can get on and get off at different points, check out the sites, and have a wonderful guided tour of Hollywood and all the popular attractions there. Maybe stop by Santa Monica Pier for a bit if you feel so inclined. And then after your 1-night stop, you continue north on the Coast Starlight. Now, this is such a popular stretch. The Coast Starlight, as I mentioned before, can run south from Seattle to San Francisco or north from LA to San Francisco. And that trip from LA to San Francisco is, again, one of the most picturesque, scenic journeys you could possibly want to take. The first half of that journey up to San Francisco entirely runs the coastline of California. You are looking out over the ocean, the picturesque and scenic cliffs we've probably all seen in so many movies if you haven't experienced it personally yourself. Before it turns a little inland and kind of runs through the agricultural heartland of California and on into San Francisco. Your 3-night stay there is, of course, included with some of the same exact attractions and sightseeing opportunities we see with the Northern Rail experience. After breaking your trip and experiencing all the City by the Bay has to offer, you're going to reboard the train again for that 2-night journey east on the California Zephyr back to Chicago. That same journey that I said that took in all the amazing landscapes and scenery possible in North America is also a major component of this trip before you wrap up back in Chicago at the beginning. Pacific Rail experience, as I said, when you stop, does include some sightseeing opportunities. So while the focus is on rail experience and taking in the majestic scenery, you still do have some opportunities to explore some of the most popular destinations that we have to offer on any of our trips. So as I mentioned, while you're in Los Angeles, take the hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour. It's a wonderful guided experience. Again, it'll take you by the Chinese Theater and all the major attractions. You get out and explore as much as you want any of those key locations. San Francisco, as we saw with the Northern Rail experience, you also include your hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour, your tour, guided tour of Muir Woods and Sausalito, and of course your Bay Cruise before heading back to Chicago. Pacific Rail experience is also, as I mentioned, these are all very popular. Another top 10 selling product for journeys for this year. It's hard, I guess, as I said, it's hard to put into words sometimes what the breathtaking landscapes are like when we take one of these trips. I wish I could expand this picture out to a full 360-degree view to really give you an idea of what you're going to see when you're traveling on one of these cross-country. And of course, Santa Monica Pier, the Sierra Nevadas. The landscapes are absolutely amazing. I've had a chance to take many of these trips, recently myself, and I got to tell you, I came back with an absolutely full camera roll on my digital camera and had to download a couple of times because I couldn't stop snapping photos. And that's always the case. Every time I go out on one of these trips, I come back with more and more things I hadn't noticed the first time around. It's absolutely amazing. Now, a lot of the cities you're traveling to are famous for their wonderful cuisine, whether it's San Francisco or Seattle with the seafood. Definitely take the time to enjoy and explore those destinations. And as I said, take some great photos and really commit to memory some of the wonderful landscapes you're going to be traveling to and experiencing. Now, the next itinerary I want to run through is the Western Rail experience. Combines a couple elements of what we saw in the Northern Pacific with a journey that departs out of Chicago. Southwest on the Southwest Chief, again, across the plains and down through New Mexico and Arizona through that beautiful desert landscape and on into LA for a night. You have that same northern journey from Los Angeles to San Francisco on the Coast Starlight where you take in that wonderful coastal scenery of California with a couple nights to explore in San Francisco. And then you complete your journey all the way to Seattle on the Coast Starlight on that overnight trip up through the Pacific Northwest with beautiful forests and landscapes with a couple nights stay to explore Seattle. Now this one journeys east on the Empire Builders, so slightly different than what we saw with the Northern. You're going back the opposite direction, so you'll still get much of the same scenery. You're going to be capturing the Cascade Mountains during the evening time, through the Rockies during the day as you go past Glacier National Park in western Montana, east across the northern plains and the lakes region as you head on down into Chicago. You're going to be able to take again many of the same beautiful landscapes we saw in our first two journeys. Again, keep an eye out for some wildlife. Western Experience is one of our longer trips, 11 days altogether. And again, encompasses a lot of the sightseeing opportunities we saw in the first two, but with a slightly different rail itinerary. So time to explore Los Angeles and San Francisco with the touring, cruises, and so forth. If somebody wants to do basically a loop of the Western United States, this is a great way to do it. This trip will take in a big expanse of the Western U.S. Absolutely amazing scenery. And of course, as I mentioned, some great destinations to break your trip. And that's one of the other things that's great about the rail experience is that it's really well timed. You get a couple nights on the train for sightseeing, day to stop and explore a great destination, and back on for a night or two. Seattle, of course, is famous for its seafood cuisine, as is San Francisco. So make sure, again, you take the time to explore the local area and flavor while enjoying your scenic train journey. Absolutely spectacular. Now we talk about Southwest and New Mexico and Arizona. Might be my favorite section of any of these journeys in particular. Now we just, in the past 2 weeks, launched 2 new rail experiences. We've had so much success, and thanks to all of you who've been traveling on our Northern Pacific and Western rail experiences and making them such a successful program. They've been so successful that, in response to customer demand, we've created 2 new that I'm happy to say are also booming trips for us since they've launched in the past 2 weeks. So the first of those is the Grand Rail Experience. For that rail buff who wants to take in the most expansive, the most ultimate trip you could do through the U.S. by rail, the Grand Rail Experience is exactly what you're looking for. Like all of our rail experience, it begins in Chicago, unless we modify that trip to include your hometown or travel from your hometown, and heads west on the Empire Builder to Seattle. That 2-night trip, again, through some beautiful, beautiful northern country. Couple nights stayed and chance to sightsee in Seattle. And one thing I really love about the Grand Rail experience is actually that it's the only one that includes an uninterrupted, compared to the first three, an uninterrupted trip on the Coast Starlight from Seattle to Los Angeles. So all in that one trip, you take in the beautiful majesty of the Pacific Northwest, the heartlands of California and its agricultural region, and of course the coastal journey down into Los Angeles. One beautiful train journey right down the western United States, top to bottom. You do stop, of course, for a night in LA to do a little exploring. Then you head east on the Sunset Limited. Now, we hadn't previously included the Sunset Limited as a travel option on our rail experiences. The Sunset Limited is the train journey that runs the southernmost journey across the United States, from LA right across the border with Mexico, essentially, down through Texas into New Orleans. Really, really beautiful journey. Takes in that same Arizona, New Mexico desert scenery that we talked so much about in some of the previous rail experiences. Of course, through West Texas, those rolling, beautiful hills of East Texas, and then on into the bayou of Louisiana before arriving in New Orleans. Again, a wonderful sightseeing journey, and very different from some of the ones we had looked at previously. Your 2 nights in New Orleans, of course, give you a chance to explore the Big Easy and take in the sights there, before continuing on to our nation's capital on a 1-night journey in the Crescent, which runs right up through the southern part of the United States and North Georgia. Now, one thing I love about that journey on the Crescent, it takes in an amazing piece of East Coast scenery, and that is the Blue Ridge of Virginia. I just did this journey again recently, and it was wonderful waking up in the morning and seeing the hills and the mountains kind of loom up before you, traveling past little babbling brooks, some wonderful forested countryside, past some one of the most picturesque farm country you'll ever see. And then when you arrive in D.C., it's like a grand welcome set up just for you. You pull up out of the train tunnel, there's a small tunnel as you're approaching, and right there ahead of you is the Washington Monument. You wrap around it, you wrap around the Capitol building, like literally right in the heart of the city you're pulling into before you reach Union Station, which is just the central heart of Washington, D.C. It's only a block or two from the Capitol building. We have you get in that afternoon, stay for 1 night there in the nation's capital, and we include a wonderful tour, one of my favorite parts of the trip, something called the Monuments by Moonlight tour, where you actually get to explore the nation's most fascinating points of interest and monuments in the evening where they're beautifully illuminated. It's a really amazing experience, very, very popular, and on this rail experience, you get a chance to take that in. After your night stay in the capital, you take the 1-night journey west to Chicago, running along the lower shore of the Great Lakes, through some of that farm country in Indiana, and on into Chicago itself. As I mentioned, the Grand Rail experience is the ultimate rail experience for the rail buff out there. Those beautiful, picturesque landscapes of the western United States, some of the most amazing scenery and farm country in the east, and of course, a stay in our nation's capital. We do hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tours in Seattle and Los Angeles, as well as a guided tour of the Big Easy, New Orleans, and that amazing Monuments by Moonlight experience in Washington, D.C. Absolutely beautiful experience around the United States. This is the one, the ultimate. For somebody who's always wanted to take that train journey and see everything the country has to offer, this one's a great chance to do that. From hitting the sights, sounds, and flavors of Pike's Market, to taking some amazing picturesque landscapes, stopping at Cafe du Monde while you're in New Orleans for a beignet, this is an ultimate rail trip. And of course, amazing, amazing scenery and experiences along the way. And last, but certainly not least, is our new Southern Rail experience. Very much like the Grand Rail experience, minus the East Coast journey. So you begin in Chicago, you do that beautiful scenic 2-night sightseeing opportunity across the northern United States. You stop in Seattle to experience all that city has to offer, followed by your 1-night uninterrupted journey on the Coast Starlight down to Los Angeles. You folks are absolutely going to love this trip. And then again, that 2-night journey east on the Sunset Limited, following basically the southern border of the United States, through those amazing desert landscapes, through Texas and into the marsh country of Louisiana. You stop for 2 nights there. Again, do your sightseeing around the Big Easy, and then head north for a 1-night journey on the famous city of New Orleans. Anyone who's ever heard that Arlo Guthrie song is probably very familiar with this train by name. I got to tell you, folks on board seem to love to sing it at different points. You hear them break out a song in different train cars as they realize the name of the train they're traveling on. But for you, it's a beautiful ride through some countryside along the Mississippi Valley, on up through southern Illinois, and on into Chicago. Southern Rail Experience is another grand way to experience the Western United States, but really following it border to border, north, west, and south back to Chicago. And again, boarding the train, traveling on the train, dining on the train, all easy, wonderful, hassle-free, and very comfortable experiences. Of course, the Southern Rail Experience, you have no shortage of sightseeing when you do stop, whether it's sightseeing tours of Seattle or LA, the guided tour in New Orleans, or really branching out on your own to explore any of these destinations for your short stays. There's no limit to what fun you can have on these trips, folks. And of course, no end of amazing, breathtaking views. Of course, New Orleans and a number of these destinations have so much to explore on your own. Make sure you take the time, get it out, enjoy some fine dining, hop off and explore with those sightseeing tours, as I said, and really make it not only a rail experience, but a great bucket list trip all around. And of course, as Jim mentioned, there are so many points of departure on this system. While the trip may begin in Chicago, we can make it a trip starting from any point in the Amtrak system you like, or if you want to fly in and pick up with us in Chicago, or if you're in the Chicago area in general, that's possible too. Really, it's whatever we would like to make it for you folks. Any of our vacation consultants will be happy to assist you in making your travel plans and making it a really easy and effortless experience, and of course, a wonderful trip when you go. Now, one of the common questions we get is, are there discounts? And I can say, depending on what journey you're taking, where you're taking it from, and so forth, you may be eligible for any number of discounts, whether it's membership to Veterans Advantage with discounts entailed with that, or senior or children discounts, or active duty members. Those may be possible, and you definitely want to mention those while you're planning your trip with your consultant. Go ahead and do is turn the presentation back over to Jim. So Jim, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to experience this with you, to be able to present on these products. I'll still be here, of course, for some questions, but this time I'm going to let Jim go ahead with a little bit more of the presentation. So thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you so much, Andy. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that, and as much as I did, and certainly learned a thing or two about all these great rail experiences. Just wanted to mention a few things before we announce today's $100 Amtrak Vacations gift card winner. We have formed a partnership with the National Park Foundation. So as Andy mentioned earlier, with these rail experiences being in our top 10 most popular tours, besides those, it's some of our national parks. So something exciting I wanted to share with all of you before we wrap up the presentation and open it up to some questions. And I see we have a ton of questions. This year we have formed a partnership with the National Park Foundation. And what does that mean to all of you? As Andy mentioned, places like the Grand Canyon, Glacier National Park, or some of the other national parks like Yellowstone National Park, Yosemite National Park, just to name a handful. Any one of you that travels on any of our packages that includes the national parks, a portion of the proceeds will actually go back to the National Park Foundation of the United States. And that is at no extra charge, no extra cost to each and every one of you. So to me, as Andy mentioned, you can start and or end your trip any way you would like. You can also customize any of these trips. So for any of you that may want to stop off in Glacier National Park, for instance, on your way on the Empire Builder from Chicago to Seattle, if you feature and include any of the national parks, everybody, just know that you are giving back to them and then at no extra charge to each and every one of you. So how do you book, everyone? Andy mentioned it. I've mentioned it. Certainly you can give any of our vacation specialists a call. We are here. They are here waiting, ready to help each and every one of you. You can also go online to take a look at any of these great rail experiences that Andy highlighted today, as well as any of our national parks or any of our other rail vacations, as well as contact your local travel agent to book any of these exciting packages. So if you do choose to go online and take a look at some of these itineraries, very easy to do. Okay, you just go to www.amtrakvacations, all one word, amtrakvacations.com. And I did want to mention also that on all of these rail experiences or any of our rail vacations, we do offer an optional travel protection plan. The beauty of it, everyone, is it allows you to cancel for any reason right up until 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, business day prior to your trip, and you will get a full refund back minus the cost of the trip protection. which in many cases can range anywhere from $35 to $40 or more. So very affordable. And we have a saying here, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. All right, so definitely keep that in mind as well. So on behalf of Andy and myself, everyone, I want to sincerely thank each and every one of you, certainly for those of you that have attended my previous presentations. Again, I hope you enjoyed hearing Andy as much as I did, and certainly more exciting presentations to come. Also wanted to just mention again, there is our 800 number as well as a reminder that you can book any of these packages through your local travel agent as well. So with that in mind, we have our winner to announce, everyone, and we also have some great questions. We have a lot of questions, and today's webinar is actually just gone just about right, which is perfect. So we have about 5 minutes or so before we end today's presentation, and I wanted to mention, if we do not get to answer your question that you typed in, we will get those answered before the end of the day today. Okay, so keep that in mind. But without further ado, let me start out by announcing who today's winner is of the $100 Amtrak Vacations gift certificate. That is Gail Gentry. Gail Gentry, congratulations. You are today's winner of our $100 Amtrak Vacations gift card. So with that in mind, everybody, let's open it up. I see we have a ton of questions. Again, over 1,000 people in attendance today for all of our presentations throughout today and this evening. So again, thank you. Lots of great interest. So we have a question from Mary. Mary asks, how much is the deposits on any of these trips, and how does your cancellation policy work? So again, deposits, just so everyone knows, they'll range anywhere from $100 to $250 per person. Obviously, with the rail experiences, they're going to be certainly a little bit longer, more inclusive. So those will be up to $250 per person, but that will secure your space on these trips. And you know, Andy had talked about roomettes and bedrooms. I can tell you firsthand, and actually Andy certainly knows this just as well, space in roomettes and bedrooms fill up fast, everyone, especially on many of our most popular routes, such as the Empire Builder or along the California coast, okay? So again, feel free to give our agents a call or contact your local travel agent who can help you with that. We also accept all forms of payment, any major credit cards, as well as your local travel agent. And as far as cancellation waiver, again, that's the same as our travel protection plan. It is optional, but it does allow you to cancel up until 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, business day prior. Okay, so now I see we have a lot of questions. So some of these I may refer over to Andy, so everyone is on the same page, okay, before the presentation finishes. And again, if we do not get to your questions, we will get those answered before the end of the day today. Next question from Renee. How many months in advance do we have to book? So again, great question, Renee. The sooner the better. Certainly, if you're looking to travel, as an example, on the Empire Builder from Chicago out to Seattle in our Northern Rail experiences, anytime during the months of May to September, that's peak season for Glacier National Park. So again, the sooner the better, and we can certainly help you with that, okay? So next question, and some of these I may chime in with Andy. Next question from Alana. If someone wants privacy, can you still book a roomette if only a day trip? So let me turn that over to Andy to help answer that question. Great question, Alana.
And Alana, thank you. That is actually an excellent question. For somebody who'd like a little more privacy on the train, can they book a private room, even if they're not traveling overnight? The answer is yes. Of course, it's space dependent. So if you are taking that trip, for example, down the Coast Starlight, just from LA to San Francisco, and there's no real overnight travel involved, and you want a room to have your meals, to have your private space, absolutely you can. It's all based on availability. But yeah, you certainly can. People do that very frequently, particularly on some of the long day trips, even when it doesn't encompass an overnight. So again, great question. You certainly can.
Thank you, Andy. Next question from Elisa. Actually, it looks like two questions. Can you start in Sacramento, and how long off the train would the tours be? So I'll turn this back over to Andy, who can help answer that for you, Lisa. Thank you. Good question.
Yes, great question. You can certainly start from San Francisco, whether it was retraining you across to Chicago or customizing the trip a little bit so that from Sacramento, rather, you started from a different point. We can make any kind of modifications to make it a really comfortable and easy itinerary for you to do. And in regards to length of tours off of the train, really any tours are going to be based on a stop. So whether it's based on a one-night stop in Seattle or LA or 2 nights in San Francisco, whatever the particulars of your trip, you're going to do all your touring and sightseeing during that stop itself. So you'll get out, you'll spend your night and your evening in your hotel or two, depending on the nature of the stop, and take your tours from that base of operations, essentially. Rather than trying to stop for the day, you wouldn't really stop and get off, go sightseeing, get back on the train the same day. It wouldn't quite work that way, if that answers your question. But a good one.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Next question from May. Will the overnight train stays be on the train, or is a hotel needed? So obviously on all these rail experiences from point A to point B, they are all overnight experiences on the train. So, you know, Andy and I can't sincerely encourage each and every one of you enough to really consider upgrading your seating and sleeping accommodations at least to a roomette, if not a bedroom. As Andy mentioned, roomette is by far our most common and certainly our most popular, and also, I might add, our most affordable, everybody. You know, many times when I've seen many of our travelers across the world traveling here in the United States on Amtrak Vacations, many times to upgrade from a coach seat to a roomette, many times may be as minimal as $100 to $200 extra per person. So very, very affordable. And not only is that going to give you your own private accommodations, but as Andy mentioned, also all your meals included on the overnight journey. Also, we do, of course, overnight in hotels in some of the major cities on these rail vacations. But as Andy mentioned, if you want to spend 2 nights instead of 1 night, or you want to spend 3 or 4 nights, we can customize these trips to be as long or as short as you would like. And again, to begin and or end wherever you would like. Lots and lots of flexibility, okay? So with that in mind, everybody, I see that we still have a ton of questions. As promised, again, if we did not get your questions answered here today on our presentation, we will get those answered before the end of the day. I wanted to just sincerely congratulate Gail Gentry again on winning our $100 Amtrak Vacations gift card. Stay tuned, Gail. You'll be receiving that gift card shortly. And to all of you that joined us today, again, thank you all for your time, your support. Thank you, Andy, for your wonderful presentation. Again, I hope you enjoyed the presentation as much as we enjoyed giving all of you the presentation. And we look forward to seeing each and every one of you, your friends and family, on board soon with Amtrak Vacations. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much, and happy holidays.